Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we will be discussing a rather scary topic. How the world could end. Make sure you stick till the end so you fully understand what could happen. Enjoy the video. 1. 6 times as far. But it isn't just the immediate deaths we need to worry about, it's the nuclear winter. This is when the clouds of dust and smoke released shroud the planet and block out the sun, causing temperatures to drop, possibly for years. If 4,000 nuclear weapons were detonated, a possibility in the event of all-out nuclear war between the US and Russia, which hold the vast majority of the world's stockpile, an untold number of people would be killed, and temperatures could drop by 8 degrees Celsius over 4 to 5 years. Humans wouldn't be able to grow food, chaos and violence would ensue. A big worry here is the arsenal of nukes. While numbers have fallen over several decades, the United States and Russia have just under 7,000 warheads each, the largest collections in the world. The UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel all have nuclear weapons. Hundreds of nuclear weapons are ready to be released within minutes, a troubling fact considering that the biggest threat of nuclear war may be an accident or miscommunication. A few times since the 1960s, Russian officers, and, in 1995, the president, narrowly decided not to launch a nuclear weapon in response to what they'd later find out were false alarms. 2. Biological and chemical warfare. Unlike nuclear weapons, which require complex engineering, biological and chemical warfare can be developed at a relatively low cost and with relatively attainable materials. In the past few years, the Syrian government has used chemical weapons in the civil war that has ravaged the country. These chemical attacks using sarin and chlorine have appalled the international community, and underscored the damage chemical weapons can do. Weaponized toxic chemicals could do tremendous harm to a localized target, say, if the toxins were released into the air or into the water supply. Biological weapons represent a greater catastrophic threat. Advances in synthetic biology have made very real the possibility of malicious actors creating harmful pathogens for weaponization, or innocent researchers accidentally releasing a lethal infectious bug out into the world. In the event of a fast-moving pandemic, the world would be very vulnerable. 3. Catastrophic climate change. The United Nations panel of scientists released a report last week saying that we only have 12 years to keep global warming to moderate levels. Projections of the effects of climate change vary depending on how much the Earth warms, usually modeled on an increase of 1 to 3 degrees Celsius. None of the scenarios look good. At best, we're looking at more frequent and severe tropical cyclones. Mid-range predictions include the loss of the majority of global agricultural land and freshwater sources, with major coastal cities like New York and Mumbai ending up underwater. At worst, human civilization would come to an end. Even if current global commitments to reduce carbon emissions are kept, there is a 1/3 chance of the Earth's temperature increasing by 3 degrees Celsius, which would cause most of Florida and Bangladesh to drown. Catastrophic climate change is also not something we're dedicating nearly enough attention to. The author of this section in the report, Dr. Lena Shrivastava, the acting director of General at the Energy and Resources Institute, points out that we've put enough time and resources into airplane safety that only 27 planes crash a year. But if dying in a flight accident was as likely as a 3 degrees Celsius global temperature increase, then the number of people dying in airplanes every year would be 15 million. 4. Ecological collapse. Salton Sea Plan calls for 200,000 homes on former atomic weapons site. A tree killed by rising saltwater is seen beyond a mud flat at dawn on the east shore of the Salton Sea on October 22, 2005. Across the lake from Salton City, California, ecosystems are the delicate community of living organisms, like humans and animals, interacting with their non-living environment, like air and water. Ecosystems can recover from a certain amount of impact from humans, like temperature increases or habitat loss, but there's a tipping point at which they can't, and according to the report, we might be reaching that tipping point. Lake Chad in West Africa is an example of ecological collapse. 60 years of drought, overuse of water, and the impacts of climate change have reduced the lake by 90%. Its massive reduction has adversely affected the livelihoods of more than 40 million people in Chad, Nigeria, Niger, and Cameroon that depend on it. Scholars believe this moment in history constitutes a new geological era, called the Anthropocene. In this new era, humans are the primary change agents, rapidly degrading what makes the planet habitable, intensifying greenhouse gas concentration, and damaging the health of marine ecosystems. 5. Pandemics. Twice in modern history, plagues have swept across the world, killing an estimated 15% of the population in a few decades. They occurred way back in the 5th and 14th centuries, respectively, but there is a serious risk that a new infectious disease could cause another outbreak, especially with today's urban and mobile global population. Luckily, deadly diseases with the capacity to spread globally are rare. But they do happen. A century ago, the Spanish flu killed more than 50 million people. Outbreaks of SARS and Ebola in recent years also ring alarm bells. Antibiotics, our greatest defense against disease, are becoming less effective as some strains of bacteria become resistant to them. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria are responsible for an estimated 700,000 annual deaths. If we don't develop new advances against antibiotic resistance, that number is estimated to reach 10 million by 2050. 6. Asteroid Impact. Asteroids are rocks that revolve around the Sun and that occasionally collide with the Earth. An asteroid large enough to cause a global catastrophe hits Earth every 120,000 years, scientists estimate. It's likely what killed the dinosaurs, and if an asteroid even 1/10 the size of the one that caused their extinction hit Earth today, the results would be devastating. Scientists estimate it could release enough particles to block the Sun for months and cause a famine killing hundreds of millions. NASA announced in 2011 that it had mapped more than 90% of objects in space larger than 1 kilometer in diameter, and that none of them are likely to hit Earth. But there's still a lot we don't know about smaller objects that, while unlikely to cause a global catastrophe, could have a big enough local impact to disrupt social and economic systems. 7. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, AI, is progressing rapidly. Surveyed scientists estimate, on average, that there is a 50% chance of AI being able to perform most tasks as well as, or better than, humans by 2050, with at least a 5% chance of surpassing human intelligence a couple of years after that. There's a common misconception that the risk of AI is that it will become malevolent. The bigger concern is that it will become too good at its job. As the report says, if you ask an obedient, intelligent car to take you to the airport as fast as possible, it might get you there chased by helicopters and covered in vomit, doing not what you wanted but literally what you asked for. The implications become much more frightening when you consider AI weapons in the hands of the wrong person, or an AI arms race leading to an AI war.